to push folks into the directions that they deem appropriate for them. And I guess I'll ask too, as personal, as individuals, how many of you experience flooding in your homes to any degree? And then your employers as well, were there impacts at your places of employment too? Okay. So again, take advantage of these resources, please. I mean, these folks work really hard. We've got folks from all over the country. I was out yesterday. I met folks from OSHA. I met folks from Fema, and they were from New York. They were from Michigan. They were from Idaho. And they are essentially coming here in droves to give us help relative to getting back up on our feet. So I think, partly it's our responsibility to make sure that we take advantage of these resources that are made available to us. And so with that, I'll open the floor to any questions that you guys may have, and we'll do this for 10 or 15, and then we'll do some breakout sessions individually here. So any questions we can start with? Yes, ma'am.
Are nonprofits eligible for FEMA grants or just the SBA loans?
Well, if it's governmental, right? If it's a nonprofit that works towards a government, has a government pension, then that one is FEMA. FEMA can help with that. Otherwise, it comes to the SBA. Okay. Oh, sure. Thank you.
Small business eligible for grants under $13,000.
No. So the question was, is a small business eligible for FEMA grants? No. FEMA doesn't have a program of any kind for businesses. So it all comes through the SBA. Yeah.
And then with that, Michael, I think that's why it's all the more important to, and Jenna just mentioned that the link is live for the Lake Houston Area Relief Fund. One of the things that we talked about is that really needed to be more than just individuals receiving grants. And so there's a component baked into this relief fund, and I'll let Jenna's much more intimate with it than I am, but I'll let her speak to that.
We just, of course, Insperity, they're in the business for helping small to medium-sized businesses as well. And so when we had the initial discussion about the relief fund, it was we need to help our residents that are here to rebuild. But we've got a lot of small businesses here that they don't get the assistance from FEMA, and they need help rebuilding too because they're our employers in our area. And so we have that, and you apply just the same way as a resident would, listing your damage and listing your needs for aid. And so we've got it's the same application that you fill out, and you will be considered just the same as a resident if you need help and grants and assistance with your business. So we wanted to make sure that was a part because our businesses need the help too. It is a case-by-case grant.
To Michael's point, track, take pictures, verify, what your losses are.
That's correct. And so on the application, they're asking, have you applied for FEMA? That's not going to apply if you're a business because obviously you can't get any FEMA funds. It'll ask if you have insurance, and if you do have insurance, you have to prove that you've already contacted them and you're going through the process with your insurance company. And so that's what they're looking for. But yes, any pictures, anything that you can do and upload with your application that shows the damage that you suffer, that's going to be way more impactful when the grant committee starts reviewing the application. So I would encourage you to put as much stuff, as much documentation with your application as you can.
I just want to add something as well on the business side. So these are some things to think about. So the way the SBA looks at if you are a landlord, let's say you have a property or multiple properties, we consider that a business. So there's been some rumors out there that SBA won't assist if it's not your primary residence, and that's false. I mean, sure, we're going to look at your primary residence that you live in, but if you have multiple properties and you're renting them, then we consider that a business, and that's that up to $2 million. So I just want to make sure that maybe it may not be anyone in this group, but if you have a friend or a neighbor, please pass the word. That'll help. We can help a lot of people together. Sure.
And I think a nice piggyback to that is friends and neighbors. We've only got about 30 some odd people in the room. And Jenna, we have 178 companies that have closed for right now. And so we know this was a situation where everybody couldn't come to this, but we know that you know someone that's been negatively impacted. Please share this information with them. I had one individual that could not come. Her business was flooded out. No revenues. She had high school employees. They're all gone because there's no revenue right now. And so she's sitting out in front of her business in a lawn chair tied to it, and she could not come. And so, and she is a great candidate for multiple programs that we've talked about here today. So we also ask that you be ambassadors and advocates as well, as far as if you know someone that's been impacted. And I think everybody here saw 59 and saw the river that was going over 59 from Sorters all the way to Deerbrook Mall. And the businesses throughout there, the water was anywhere from 4 to 8 feet deep in given areas, and we lost the first floors of multiple hotels, retail kind of across the area. So we know the need is there, but we also know that this may not be the top of their first page just because of the urgency that they're trying to get power back on, they're trying to get water, they're trying to figure out payroll. So this may not hit the radar for them in the same way. So we ask that you help those individuals, provide these links, make phone calls, give them Jen and I's phone number, and we're more than happy to direct them where they need to go as far as these potential resources.
And this presentation is going to be on our YouTube channel, so you can share it with them so they can hear the overview too.
Okay, perfect. More questions, please. Yes, ma'am.
So what type of, for economic impact, what would you need to provide for that?
Okay. So in a situation where there's an economic injury, as I called it, we need to see a couple of things. One, we're going to need to see potentially financial statements, things like that, so we can trend it, so we can say, okay, well, the business was doing just fine before the disaster. As a result of the disaster, it kind of went off the cliff, right? So we need to have something to be able to trend it back. Now, if you don't have it in QuickBooks, you don't have it in the cloud, or you don't have your documents, we'll work together with you, and we may even enlist SCORE, SBDC, to try to help you get that roadmap. But there'll be a series of things that we'll need, but we'll work you through that. We'll walk step by step.
Was that just kind of a year-over-year analysis?
Correct.
As far as looking at
Q3 of 16 absolutely. Versus... That's it. And we're going to go back 2 years, maybe 3 years, 2 years most likely. So just somewhere right in there. One other thing, can I take just another second here, is that I know in the communities that I'm in, I've been doing this since Katrina, right? So since Hurricane Katrina and every disaster that you've probably seen on the national news, I've been part of it. So I've been able to see from a ground floor level the anxiety, the stress, so have a good sense of what you're feeling. And I would say this, that it's going to be a patchwork of programs that's going to make someone whole or a business whole. So don't think that I just need to go down one avenue. If that doesn't work, forget about it, it's over. It's not over. Just keep applying. You may have to talk to FEMA. You may have to talk to SBA, the state, SBDC, because someone may trigger something in you that says, I get it. Let me try a different angle. So we will get through this, and I can say that with confidence. It's tough. There's a number that Miguel said, 40% of businesses. We're not going to be that 40%. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you're not. But all I would ask is that please apply first.
Yes, sir.
Do nonprofits, do they have to go through FEMA, or is it just through the SBA?
Through the SBA.
Let me worry about FEMA.
Here's what we want you to do. Let me say it this way. So I'm going to ask all of you in this room to register with FEMA first, right? And the reason I say that, even if you don't want FEMA funds, you might be a homeowner or a renter. So get into the system so that we can loop you back. We can also take those numbers, send them up to the governor, and shine a spotlight on this area. So that's why we have those numbers, right? So the other thing is that FEMA will help you if you work towards with a government penchant, right? So if your nonprofit is geared more towards governmental needs, then FEMA may be able to help you. But the majority of nonprofits will come through the SBA for assistance. Also, churches, they can receive assistance from SBA. Let's say they're down on their ties. People aren't able to get to that business. That's an economic injury. So that's another thing to keep in mind, too.
And I say also, oh, yes, sir.
Assuming you get an interest loan, and that interest is tax deductible, just like you would for your business, or?
So the question was, is the interest deductible when you're looking at a low-interest disaster loan? And the answer is yes. We can take a look at that. So it's a direct low-interest loan from the government. You'll receive statements on that, what you've paid, et cetera. Sure. Sure. So here's the qualifications. So we're looking first, we're going to look at repayment ability. So we're going to need to see, okay, could you repay a loan either before the storm or what your situation is? We're not FICO score driven or collateral driven. So if you've got, let's say, a 600 FICO, we're not going to say, no, sorry, because we know this is a disaster. So inherent into our program, we have built-in flexibility. So it's credit that's acceptable to SBA. That's the nice federal way of saying it. And that means we're going to look at your whole situation and say, okay, this works. Because, again, it's taxpayer dollars. And that's really the long and short of it. So, any other questions?
I have a question that I'm sure someone's thinking about.
I'll hold it. Okay, sure.
How fast can you get the money?
Okay, so he's the money man. Okay, how fast can you get the money? So the process takes 3 to 4 weeks, as I mentioned before. Hopefully sooner, but that depends on when you apply for it. So that's why I'm saying everyone please apply sooner rather than later. You don't want to be that guy that's waiting to day 59. You know, that's a tough go. So how do you get the money? Again, we won't write a blank check or a big check for $1 million. We're going to do an initial disbursement, and that can come after you close loan documents. Once you're approved, then you let us know, okay, when do you want that initial disbursement? So you're really in control of it once you're approved. And then from there, you draw down like as a construction loan, because you're going to need to show us a receipt. You're going to need to show us a contractor estimate, and then we pay those funds. Because again, taxpayer dollars, people get audited, things go wrong, so we don't want that. Yes, sir.
If you were to do a loan, how does the payment plan work with that? It's just 30 years. Pay more, pay it off soon, or?
Yeah, there's no prepayment penalty on the loans at all. So, I mean, at the Treasury would love you to pay it off sooner. So the sooner the better. But we amortize the loan based on what you owe from the onset of the loan. Now, we have what's called a loan modification. So let's say we approve you for that $1 million, and then you say, you know, I'm pretty handy. I can fix half of this myself, right? And you only need $500,000. We can modify the loan back to $500,000 and re-amortize it. You're not responsible for that other $500,000. We just modified your loan back, and that's how we do it. So,
Michael, for the working capital and personal property, is that a 7-year amortization? Or
No.
is that,
it's 30 years.
it's all 30?
It's all 30 years.
Oh, wow.
In some ways, you can think of it as a line of credit. You're drawing down on it, but you have an initial disbursement. So I guess you could think of it that way. Yeah. I think she had did you have a question, Miss, in the green? I thought I saw you go like that. Oh, you did. Okay.
So we have employees who lost wages,
Okay.
so do I find something?
There we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Just how?
They've lost wages or they've lost a job?
No, they have their jobs, but they, like, we were closed, they couldn't work.
So there's wages that are missing kind of in that interim? You can make up, there's called the shared work program, so if they're getting some hours but maybe not the full hours, where they can draw claims for the difference.
I'm talking about if they,
Just 2 weeks out of there, no pay.
yes, yes.
You can try and do a disaster unemployment assistance for that time period. It kind of depends on a case-by-case basis if they're back at work now. But generally, what they're going to have the claimant do is apply for regular unemployment. If you qualify for that, you have to exhaust that first before you get the federal disaster unemployment assistance. If you don't qualify for regular unemployment insurance, like the sole proprietors, or if you don't have enough wages on file in the base period or certain quarters, you could then potentially qualify for the federal disaster unemployment.
So have them apply.
Apply. But the procedure is to go through the regular process first. It can be online or you can call the telecenter. I think the employer side that I think is kind of, I always have employers call and ask about their tax rate and their chargebacks. Anytime anybody has an unemployment claim and there's a chargeback to the account, and then your tax rate goes up, and they don't like that. The disaster unemployment will not affect your tax rate. The other employment claims will stay the chargeback 3 years, and your tax rate will go up, and you'll be unhappy. But this will not affect that. So I say encourage all of your employees to apply. It's not going to have any harm on the business, and it'll help with the missing wages.
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but the things pop in my head. So if you're approved for an SBA disaster loan, I don't want you to think that the next month you're going to have to pay for the loan, because it's a hardship right now, right? So what we do is we've set a 6-month deferment, 2 deferments. Think of this. So if you have an existing SBA disaster loan right now from another disaster, that's deferred for 12 months, no payments on it. If you now have a brand new,
That's a scenario if you move from New Orleans.
right, yeah, you move from New Orleans.
Part of the tax day was last year.
Right, the tax, I was here for that, yeah, so, there's a 12-month deferment on any previous loans. Now, for the new loans, we're doing a 6-month window so that you don't have to make your first payment for 6 months. That's gonna allow you to kind of assess the situation, get your bearings, and just have a chance to breathe for a minute. Because I know within 2 weeks, I mean, there's been no chance to breathe. I mean, my heart goes out to everyone that's been affected. I'm a California guy, so, you know, I fly in, this is what I do. 6 months a year, I'm on the road traveling. That's why I said I have a pretty good sense of what's going on. And I apologize, you know, I'm sorry that this happened, but we'll get through it.
And for clarification, with me for the renters, and this is more for the employers that know your employees' apartments were essentially washed out. A lot of the apartment complexes in this area, their first floors are essentially wiped out. And so many of them have essentially evicted everyone from the apartments while they are doing the repairs. And so I just want to make sure I'm hearing correctly in that if the tenants did not have flood insurance and they have a gap relative to their losses, they can apply for a personal property 30-year amortized loan for their car, for their belongings. So I just want, so as
Up to 40,000.
up to 40,000. Did I say more than that?
Well, no,
Okay.
I was wondering if Mills were gonna say
Okay.
50, and I was like,
No. So 40,000, and think about your employees that may have lost everything. And so again, this is really about how we kind of do this patchwork quilt for not just the folks in the room, but the folks that are directly and indirectly impacted that we're aware of. So if you know of someone that lost their car, and I've talked to people that had just paid for their cars, and they got flooded. And so this is a way, and heck, if I could get yeah, for 30 years on a car note, that's like $6 a month, right?
I'm glad you brought that up. Let me say this. Remember how earlier I said up to 30 years? So let's say we approve you for $10,000. Oh, let's say we approve you for $10,000. Well, we can't make that 30 years. Congress won't let that happen. So that's a thing where we'll modify it back to maybe 5 years or 10 years and make it workable. So I just wanted to, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So to that point a little bit, are there any restrictions on how you use those funds? I mean, like you can't bet it all on black, for example, right? I mean,
Let me speak to that at another meeting. Okay, that's a good, I'm gonna use that one later. That's a good one. So, okay, there are there are restrictions on how you can use the funds. Like, and the reason that came about, I'll give you an example. During Hurricane Katrina, FEMA was injecting funds and saying, okay, here's your payout, right? And people were taking that and they were ending up in bars and clubs, and the money wasn't being used for what it was supposed to be used for. So now that's why that check and balance isn't, okay, if you buy a new car, keep a receipt for it because you could be audited. Federal government has ways of doing things, as we all know, and, you know, not me, but, you know, you could be audited. So just keep your receipts for a couple years, you know, do the right thing, and everything will be good. That's really the long and short of it. Yes?
On the personal property, how long is it taking to get that loan? So the renters,
Yeah, it's all running about the same. Yeah, because I suspect by a week from now, we'll be at 850,000 registrations. A week after that, it'll be at maybe 1 million registrations. So there's inherent delays that are built in. So I would ask all of you for some patience because, you know, Mother Nature did a disservice. None of us asked for this. So we've got to work our way through it. So there'll be some lag time, but we will get there. We're trying to do as fast as we can by employing more people, getting more people here into Texas. I've heard rumors also that, well, Irma hit, so now FEMA and SBA are going to go there. No, we have an office there already, so we have staff there, but we have staff here, and we're staffing all the centers around. Yes, sir.
So you register online and go to the centers?
No, you don't. You can do one or the other. I mean, I always tell people, if you have a chance, go to the center, because you may have a question or you need us to walk you through something, and we'll do it right there. But if you can't, online's great.
Where are the centers that look here?
Well, I have to get the list for you. There's oh yeah. Yeah, are you talking well, we have a business recovery center on Fannin Street, and that's, yeah, 2302, look at that, he's got it, 2302 Fannin Street. And that's a business recovery center. You can walk right in there anytime, you don't need an appointment, and we'll help you. You can also close your loan there too as well. Or you can go to a disaster recovery center in Houston. The wait might be a little bit longer, but you can go there.
Lone Star Colleges, we did put our name in the hat to become a DRC as well. We're just waiting to get told, so.
Yeah.
And with that, that means that the agencies, you'll be housed in their facility.
In their facility.
Okay.
You know, I can't not stress the importance of this man right here and his organization. Because even though we provide the funds for you, right, and we help you to get up to speed, there's going to be those inherent questions, well, you know, what do I do now? Or, you know, do I need to take pictures? How do I let the world know that I'm open? You know, an example, in Colorado, when I worked the floods there were several businesses that they lost revenue because people said, I'm not going to Colorado because it was just flooded. I'm going to cancel my wedding. I'm going to cancel my tourism. They just didn't want to go. Well, there's a spotlight on Texas right now because it's good and bad. I mean, the good is that great. We're getting federal resources here. The bad is that you have to always keep in your mind that what's the perception out there? What's the public-facing perception? So anything you can do through social media, through taking pictures that may show the before and after, and that, hey, we're viable, we're open for business, we weren't affected, just keep that presence of mind because it may help you if you're in a tourism business or something like that. So a little out of my lane, but I wanted to throw that in because I've experienced it before.
I'd like to speak to that too. I mean, one of the things, this storm, how many of you went through Ike? So everybody pretty much. And so this is so much different than Ike. And so one of the things from an economic development perspective that we had National Economic Development Organization, state, and along with the federal EDA, and Michael actually spoke on Monday, and we talked about the branding aspect of this. There's a spotlight on us right now. The good thing is we've responded spectacularly. The issue is how long we can sustain that and how we can let people know that we are open for business. This was really a residential storm when you look at the aggregate number. There were over 122,000 single-family homes, 18,000 apartments, and God knows how many businesses that were impacted, but the majority of it were individual families. So we had developments around the city, commercial industrial developments that had no flooding, no power outages the whole duration of the storm. And so what we've got to do now is let the country know that we're up and running. Yes, we did take a hit, but we're open for business. We can still bring new business in. We've got areas of the city that were not negatively impacted. And that's the story that we need to be telling our friends, family, neighbors across the country, because, you know, the media is just showing, you know, everybody walking through this much water. But there's another story to be had, that we just went through the worst storm in recorded history, worst flooding in recorded history, and we're all sitting here right now talking about rebuilding. So this is a strong state, strong community, and we've just got to make sure that the rest of the country knows that. We're 2.5% of the nation's GDP. We produce 25% of the oil and gasoline for the whole country. So the country can't stand for us to be down very long. And so with that, that's why I think we saw the immediate response. Like we had, not that they're not going to respond immediately, but there are bigger stakes here at play relative to the country's health. And so that's where I think we need to make sure that we let all of our neighbors know what resources are out there and how they can use them so we can get back up to speed as quickly as possible. More questions? Yes, ma'am.
$1099 will not qualify for regular unemployment, but I want to say be careful when you say your employees are paid on a 1099, because Department of Labor has had a big push with TWC about misclassified workers. So if they're 1099s, they're true independent contractors, they can apply. They're going to have to apply through the website like everybody else. But I want to make sure that there's that distinction between employees and 1099 subcontractors. But the 1099, as you stated, they are not eligible for regular unemployment. The disaster unemployment they potentially would be eligible for, they would have to demonstrate that before they were business and earnings, the 1099 or the prior 1040 for the prior year, and that now there's no earnings. And then they would ideally be eligible for it. But call and apply through the telecenter like you would do for any other unemployment claim. Once they're denied for the regular, then they'll be eligible for the disaster unemployment. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Even for the 1099, the independent contractors, your sole proprietors, we're going to handle the disaster unemployment assistance. And so the eligibility pool is a little bit broader than it is for regular unemployment. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I've got more information. I'm not sure if it's on the green flyer, but that's just the process. If there's eligibility for the regular unemployment, they want to use those funds first. Those who are not eligible for the regular unemployment will be eligible for the, potentially eligible for the federal funds. Okay. Good answer.
And there's actually, well, you've got the lime green, and then there's actually a link on the back of the agendas as well. And that's actually a really good link. If you click on that link, it's a great overview of how DUA works. And so again, now you've got like real people that we're going to get their business cards and everything, but the links are good as well, so please take advantage of those.
I'm going to turn the tables just for a quick second. So you have asked questions of me. I want to have a question of you. Do you feel that the resources are here from the federal side? Are you getting the information that you need, or did you feel that there wasn't enough information? This helps me to do my job. And just feel free to blurt it out. I mean, are you engaged in the sense that you were getting the information, you knew FEMA was here, you knew SBA was here, you knew about workforce development, or do we need to make that clearer in different ways of how to reach out? Okay, okay. Okay, and that's perfectly acceptable. And the reason I asked is because, remember, we're at week 2, so there's still going to be some starts, some stops. Because the first week was recovery, as I mentioned. You know, we were still finding people and going through that, and you saw that on the news. This second week has now been about getting recovery and getting the word out there. So now that I know that, anything that I can do, I can make sure that whether it's, you know, high tech, whether it's social media, whether it's low tech, posting the signs on the library or something like that, we'll be able to do that better. So that's important to me in my job. Yes.
So as an employer, so I know that we're looking for assistance for our employees who could work, but I have employees that I guarantee 40 hours a week, and so they automatically get paid, even though you get the same thing, even though there was no work to do because the whole city was shut down, I still had to pay them. So how can I get some assistance for payroll and expenses that already went out, even though there was no work?
Yeah.
I think his economic injury is
Yeah,
probably.
that's what I was going
yeah.
to say. I thought it was you. Come back this way. Okay, so from my side, that's called economic injury. So what you do is you would keep a track of, okay, what's the hours that I paid out? And then when you apply, it's almost like a debt is how you're looking at it. So just let us know that. We can have that conversation. We can tell you what we can do and what we can't do. And hopefully it's a can do. But
I would have to get a loan and pay a percentage to be able to be reimbursed for.
correct. Unfortunately, it would be through the loan that you'd recoup the money that you spent. It's more of a stabilization type thing.
I kind of go back to the fact that we've put together these mechanisms locally through Insperity. That's where we want you to come there too.
Okay.
I mean, that's one of the things I wanted to comment. These programs are not mutually exclusive. So just because you get one does not mean you cannot apply for the other. So the objective is to get you back, and I think Michael said it best, we can't get you better than you were, but let's use all the resources to kind of make you whole. So if you can use multiple tools to get you there, because maybe SBA can give you that full loan, maybe you have to go through the Lake Houston Area Relief Fund to get the gap, whatever it is, we just want to make sure that you're aware that all of these things are there so you can kind of take advantage of all of them and use as many of them as legally and ethically appropriate to get you back to where you were, because again, we're all taxpayers and we've got great corporate citizens that are, 85% of the state does not have flood insurance. I mean, and so this is something that was completely unexpected. I mean, I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that 140,000 residential units are now pretty much lost. And so, and that's just, those are just the complete losses. There's more that are damage where people are, you know, ripping out drywall. There's a FEMA map that shows the damage across the whole 13 county region. And it looks like somebody took a shotgun, stepped back about 10 feet and just did a blast. And so there's severe damage all throughout this area. And it was really whether you were low ground or high ground. And so, and that was the differential. I mean, you go through Kingwood. I was with OSHA people in Kingwood, and they were just amazed that on one side of the street, the water was up to here. On the other side of the street, there was no water. And so that, to Michael's point, this is something not that we couldn't plan for.
Yeah, sure, you first.
If it's wages that are missed, like it's already gone, you've already paid it out because their salary and they were promised it, Texas workforce can't pay you back that money. If they're currently still not meeting that 40 hours for the salary, you know, they're not working part-time or some people can't make it in, then we can discuss the shared work option, and that'll help to subsidize the expense to you for the difference in the wages. So if it's something that's happened in the past, maybe look at the Insperity or the loan, but if it's still something you're going through, we could talk about Texas workforce and what we can provide to you for that, okay?
I was just going to echo what Mark had said, and I'll pass just real quick. Just kind of give you a picture of how enormous this is, this undertaking. I saw a statistic that said the Astrodome would be filled 85 times with the amount of people that need assistance. It may be more than that, but think about that for a minute. That's a great number of people. This is a catastrophic event. This is not just a flood. This is catastrophic. So with that in mind, I don't say that to scare you, but just to give you a point of reference. So when you may be upset at you know, a friend or relative or the federal government or whatever the case is, please just have a little bit of patience because this is going to be a large undertaking.
This is a bit out of the box. I talked, you know, a little bit about the subsidized employment opportunities that we have, where we subsidize 100% of the jobs for public businesses. We also have on-the-job training resources that any business could apply for. And with that, we would reimburse businesses up to 50% of a new employee's salary. And so if you have any new hires that you have to bring on, you know, look to Workforce Solutions possibly for the on-the-job training service. Just a way possibly to realize some cost savings so that over time maybe you can recoup some of that for your businesses. Again, out of the box.
Any more questions? And they're going to stick around for a little bit after the session. So number one, hopefully you all thought this was valuable. We are here. Call us. Please let us know. Please let your friends know, your colleagues know, your competitors know that we all get healthier as we essentially rise the tide. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for taking the time, and we appreciate it.